Hey, this is Pastor Tabitha Purple. I am talking about what I do for a living today. I thought it would be nice for me to check in with you. A lot of people ask what pastors do generally. I've had some of my bestest friends in the world think that the only thing I do is turn up to church on a Sabbath morning and preach a sermon when I first started out, which I think was hysterical because clearly not what a pastor does. We do that, and that requires a lot of study time, and it requires a lot of intense work to produce good sermon material every single week and Bible studies every single week. So it takes a lot of energy and a lot of time to study. Any teacher who's worth their salt will tell you, you know, lesson prep is half the job. If you're not lesson prepping, if you're not really studying and keeping up with your subject, it can be intense. And for a pastor, our subject is always changing and is always culturally relevant, and always we have to create new things all the time because, of course, we're speaking to specific people in a specific place at a specific time. And so you're constantly, unlike a teacher who may have their curriculum set for 2 years and can kind of run with it. I've been a teacher. You can run with it. The curriculum doesn't necessarily have so much change in it. Although there was once a government changed it every year, and that drove us insane because then you can't keep your lesson planning. With a pastor's work, you actually have to do that lesson planning every week consistently. So that is part of what we do. But a lot of what we do is what I would say is being a witness to people's lives. So we spend time with people giving careers advice, giving spiritual guidance, giving pastoral visitations in hospitals to sick people. We do things like help people. And maybe this depends, marriage counselling. And it depends on your pastor. Each pastor has their own specific gifting, and therefore we work in different ways. So there's no two of us that are literally doing the same thing. But that just gives you a taste of some of the colour. So in this time when we can't be with people, which is literally my job, is to sit with people, to walk alongside them in their life, to give them spiritual encouragement, to be a part of their journey, to lift them up, to teach them, to help them in any way that we can. So when I can't be with them, how do we help them? And so some of the things that we've been doing thus far, we obviously have been making these videos to help families particularly, but also people who want to talk about emotions, want to talk about different subject materials. So if you have a subject material that you want me to discuss, then please hit me up in the comments section and I will make a Let's Talk video about that subject. I'm obviously producing the sermon still. We're still producing Bible studies at this point, but we're trying to find new and different ways of doing that. So we're using new technologies. We're trying to get to grips with it as quickly as we can. I'm quite blessed because I already had a YouTube channel, already had an online ministry. So it was just a case of picking up where I had left off. And many of you knew that I was slowly coming back to it. So there's a new website coming. There's a website with me and the kids coming. The YouTube content has gone up. There's Bible studies that are on their way, free downloads that you'll be able to get, and different materials. There's a Bible journaling information coming, etc, etc. So there's a lot on its way, and I have been working on this before we got put into lockdown. So the social distancing has helped me in some ways to do the ministry stuff for a lot of you who need it when I'm physically doing all of the hard graft of being with people. Those things get put on the back burner because, you know, the work of sitting with somebody and hold their hand as they go through the grieving process, or as they have to have a mastectomy, or as they have to, or they've lost a child, or whatever the situation is that they're going through, that takes precedence over the creation of materials that we know helps people, but often isn't as high a priority when you're faced with the loss of a child or a mother or what have you in the situation. So that's some of the things that I'm doing, which you knew I was doing anyway. Some new stuff. We added a prayer meeting on Zoom. We gave that a test out. That was interesting. It worked fairly okay. We had some sound issues, so we need to work that out. I've been doing book deliveries and food deliveries. We've managed to send food parcels out to people who are at home and will not be able to get to the stores because of their illnesses. So that felt really like something that we could really offer. And so we were able to then step into those shoes and package up food and put them in the post and record delivery, send it to the people that would actually not be able to get out to the shops. Which brings me to a nice point of social responsibility. I also spend a lot of time educating people and encouraging people to be their best socially, to be their best within their network, within their cultural community. And what we're talking about there is, you know, when we think, we go to the store and it's like, oh my gosh, panic, panic, panic. We need to buy all the toilet paper, all the pasta. We need to get loads because what if it runs out? What we don't realise is that there are people who are sick, who are disabled, who have mental health issues, who have hidden disabilities, who are unable to do that. And because of that, it becomes so much more our responsibility not to behave in ways that would hinder them. And so, you know, there was a store that opened up their doors early for the elderly, and then ended up letting everybody in, which was not helpful. And the elderly were stood in the queue and were unable to, by the time they got in, there was nothing left. And how frustrating is that, you know, it's been open specifically for a high-risk group who really need it early. We can always drive to other stores. You who are healthy can always move and do other things. But for people who are old, who are in a risk category, for whatever risk it is, can't do that. And so I end up spending a lot of time trying to find ways of encouraging people within the social community, within the community, within our local area, within the wider community, being an activist for people saying, come on, we can do better. And so that's a large proportion of my time also, is trying to find ways of communicating that, trying to support in the local initiatives where we're looking at how can we actually help in the local community, how do we not spread disease, how do we help, posting things that I see that encourages other people to donate time to hospitals if they've got qualifications within the medical field. Can you donate a little bit of time to your local hospital who are struggling and who began to reach out to us as pastors and say, do you have people in your network? Do you know people who can come into the hospitals and help us, because we need all the medical staff we can get. So that's some of what it is. We deliver supplies to families. So alongside the videos that I create that help people to understand or to give a tip over how to work with their children. Some people are really inspired by that, but say they don't have the materials at home to be able to produce an art piece, or they don't have enough writing materials, or the kids need a new soccer ball, or whatever it is. And so we deliver supplies to families who need different things. So that's kind of a taste of what I'm doing. Some of my other colleagues are doing amazing things, but it's different for each pastor. Some of us are more on lockdown because we have young children, so it's much more difficult if you have children who are in the primary school, basisschool in Netherlands situation, to actually get out as much because you are homeschooling at the same time. And so those are all challenges that we face, but we're working hard. We're working hard for our local communities. We're working hard for the local area, for the people in our local areas. We're working hard for our church communities, and we're doing as much as we can to help at a time, to bring calm, to bring peace, to bring a sense of rust is the Dutch word, and a sense of rest, a peace in the situation. Because people feel very anxious, feel very on edge, and what they need more than anything is someone to reassure them that while we don't have all the answers, that we can be with them in those journeys, that we can connect, and that it will be okay. Whatever the outcome is, that is okay. We will work it out and we will get through it together. And that's really important. So some interesting conversations surrounding prime ministers this week, which ones were giving really good speeches. And I was saying that for me personally, as an English speaking person, I've often decided to get my calming political influence news from the New Zealand Prime Minister. She's really good at doing that. Living in Europe, if I want to hear anything, I tend to go to Angela Merkel. She's very direct about the situation, but brings it over in such a very calm way. And then we were smiling because, of course, there are some English-speaking prime ministers who are very influential, but they have no calm or chill about them at all. So you know exactly who I'm speaking of without me saying their names. And I find them to just agitate people. And so I'm encouraging people to seek a leader that they can actually listen to. That might not be the leader of your country. Today I saw a really calming message from the Canadian Prime Minister, who came out and spoke in such a manner to give reassurance to his people, to really lead in a way that was good. And I think at this time when it's really stressful, where people are on edge and we don't know the results of every part of what's going to happen next, and you know there are big words on the table like recession and death and anger and worry and isolation. These are huge topics. These are huge, heavy burdens for individuals to unpack. When we put those on the table, we also have to put on the table things like love, kindness, compassion for one another. We also have to put on the table loving your neighbor, being kind to one another, actually remembering and being mindful about people. And so when we talk about these things in global sense and things that seem out of our control, we also have to remember there's a lot within our control, within our own neighborhood, within our own locality, within our own communities, that we can actually find a way to find peace, to find rest, to bring a sense of calm at a time when it's quite anxious. And if you are finding ways of doing that, if you are finding ways of actually being restful at this time, I think it's really important to share those with other people. So for me as a Christian, I find it really important that if I can bring rest to somebody, if I can bring a sense of peace, if they can experience a sense of calm, and really come into a sense that God is with them and that it will be okay, that it's really important for us to do that. The hysteria is not helpful. The cry wolf is not helpful. The making up stories that just feed anxiety is not helpful. When we think about who Jesus is, we need to come into those spaces. So for those of you who think, well, what does a pastor do? I see you on YouTube. What do you do? These are some of the things that we do. And some of my colleagues, as I say, are doing amazing things with their church communities. They're able to do wonderful things to bring a sense of rest, calm and peace. And that is something that money can't buy. That is something that we all need at a time when anxiety, fear, and, you know, these things are just a rising high in people. So that's really just to give you an overview of what's working. Be kind to people who work in shops, please. I want to end on that note. I received some messages today from local shops in our area, but then from further afield, people talking about how people were being really mean to the staff who work in shops. If you did not know that shop workers are vital to our lives, know that now. Please know that now. You know, you want the food, you want the stuff that the shop is selling. The way to get that is to make sure that the staff are protected, that they stay healthy, that they can do their jobs without fear, without the problems of feeling like they're going to get sick from you who refuse to do as you're told. Take your space from them. Ask them questions from a little further away. Don't be frustrated and angry with them when you can't find what you need because somebody else is hoarding, or my favourite Dutch thing, hamstering. That's the also the sign language for it is hamstering. I love that. It's made me so happy to learn that phrase. But you know, be nice to these people. They're trying their best to keep the shops open, the supermarkets, the food stores, the local corner stores open so that you can have food. That every day you don't have to fret, you don't have to hamster, you don't have to hoard. You can go to the store and buy what you need. But in order to do that, we have to be nice to one another. Can you do that for me, please? Right, if you can do that, that's wonderful. If not, please stay home, order online, don't go to the store. Please have someone deliver it, and it'll be nice to the delivery person if you don't mind. Thank you. Good. Right then, that's my little moment of being on my soapbox. I'll come back down again and tell you to have a wonderful, wonderful day. God bless. Bye-bye.